All right, we are live. This time I rehearsed this in my head. So we are live today, once again on Dime TV with my main man, Rob, fueled by Chai. And we are here to talk about everything AI and trading. So, Rob, say hi to everybody.
What's up, everybody? Happy, I don't know, whatever day it is for you right now. It's Thursday morning here. It's
Oh, it's
Thursday
Thursday
night
night for me.
there. Okay.
Yeah, same
So,
day,
same day, same day,
same day.
almost
We're
Friday.
all in almost Friday, and we're all in sync, man. So for today's episode, this is going to be one of the more interesting ones to me because um our guy Rob here has already come up with a lot of interesting things, in the past week, strategies, insights that he wants to share with us. But first, we want to bring back our very trusty news trading bot and see
News
how it's
trading.
doing.
Yes, yes. We don't have a
So
name for it yet.
before you start with
Yes.
the insights, okay, I want to give a shout out to our videographer Atul. Atul, if you can, please clip last week's stream where we ask people to help us name the news trading bot that Rob has created.
Yes, yes. We need a name for this thing. There'll be, and there's going to be a new variation of this too, because I saw Dan did a post or a response to this live stream, and he put oil in there. And so now that Paradex has oil, both Brent and WTI contracts on the exchange, I'm going to create a variation of this news trading bot to trade the oil market. So right now it's just doing BTC and it's looking at headlines related to Bitcoin. But now that there's oil contracts available on Paradex, I want to create a variation of this to just do the oil contracts, and we'll see how it does. So,
I'm gonna jump the gun. I'm gonna ask you one question before you
yeah,
start.
yeah.
When for this variation, are you still gonna be a contrarian for oil?
So I am always a contrarian by
Okay,
nature.
okay.
Now we can jump in and see how the results are doing so far because we've actually got some trades this week. So for the longest time, the market was extremely bearish, with the price of Bitcoin. It's been running for about a month now, this strategy. And all the headlines have been extremely bearish. And things finally have started to flip a bit. We're starting to see some more positive headlines come out um, about Bitcoin with it rallying a bit off of its lows. So now the strategy is flipping. So I think I'm gonna stick with the contrarian view, and I'm gonna implement the same thing with oil, and we'll see how we do here. So um, yeah, so we'll stick with that and see how it goes. So far, it seems to be working okay for Bitcoin, though.
Okay.
So
Um, are you ready to show us some like of the some stats or performance or
yeah, yeah. Let's jump into it here.
all right,
So
all right.
I'm gonna try sharing my screen here, and I think first I'll share my Claude desktop. Now, what I have done in Claude is, and we'll bring it up here. What I've done in Claude, let's see, are we able to see it? Because it looks like it's my face that's really big on the screen, but maybe it's the um,
It's okay. Our backend AI's got it. There we go.
okay. Our AI guy is on it. Okay, cool. So we got the Claude screen up here. This Claude desktop. Now, what I have whoops, what I have the strategy doing is every market open, it goes and grabs the headlines, figures out if they're bullish or bearish, and then it will place a trade based on that, or it will stay in an existing trade. And now it will also write these trades to a file. So later I can go and download them and analyze them. And it will also write its analysis of the headlines to the file as well. So I can go back and see, oh, at the New York Open, the headlines were very bearish. It was 75% confident in its bearish view of that, right? So I can kind of go back and debug why it made some decisions. So the cool thing is, now that I got these files, I can create something in Claude to give me a nice, pretty view of what's going on in the algo. So I've gone ahead and I've created a skill in Claude, which is basically a way to say, okay, here's a bunch of stuff I want Claude to do, and I want to make it very repeatable. So I don't have to give it the same prompt over and over again if I want to rerun the same thing again at a later date. So now I can get those files from my server, the trade file and the file that has all its analysis in it, and just give it to Claude and say, create a pretty dashboard. So I'll go ahead and I'll kick that off now because it takes a little bit of time to actually run it. And then we can kind of talk a little bit about some of the code behind what it's doing here. So,
All right.
so if we go here, I've got a couple of skills or a few skills already created. So news trading dashboards, yeah, the Paradex funding heat map. I think we talked about this one last week, right?
Yeah.
So it's a way for you to create a heat map of all the funding rates of all the assets that Paradex trades very quickly, and it uses its MCP interface. And so I created that as a skill. And actually, I don't know, maybe I think these skills are shareable too. So maybe if we can create a location in the Paradex GitHub or something like that, I might be able to share these with other people that might want to make use of it.
I will talk
So,
to our guys. We should put it in our AI Agentic hub in our docs. I mean, like of all places, that is
yeah,
the
yeah. So yeah, people could use this and they can then tweak it, do whatever they want with it, but it could be a good starting place to even just play with the MCP. So
thank you in
let's go
advance,
ahead.
man.
Yeah. So let's go ahead
Yeah.
and click so the news trading dashboard. I'm going to upload my two files from the server. So one contains the trades, the other contains the news headline review. And all I do is give it those two files and the skill that I need it to use, and then it's just going to go off and do its thing. So it's going to take a while to read through the files, crunch the numbers, build this pretty dashboard. Hopefully, it's a pretty dashboard it builds. So while that's cooking, we can go and take a look at what the algo itself, the news trading algo itself, is doing. So I can share a different screen here. Let me see if I can swap this out. All right. So this is Visual Studio Code, and our AI is just freaking awesome. Like it knows exactly how to zoom in on the text and
Very
center everything
intuitive.
perfectly.
Yeah.
So okay, so basically the way I built this is how I would use AI. I know we were kind of chatting about this last week. And do you use AI for actual trading? And the kind of my view is no, you wouldn't want AI itself to just autonomously trade, but there are really good uses for AI in trading. And so we'll kind of get into some of the different uses of AI in trading. And this is one of them. So I'm kind of augmenting a strategy using AI. And I used AI to help me build the strategy and code the strategy, but I'm not having AI place the trades autonomously, right? So what the idea was, and we had talked about this weeks ago, is like, let's create an algo that trades based on news headlines, right? So what I had Claude do is I kind of explained what I wanted this algo to do, what sort of headlines I wanted to pull, and I actually used Claude to help me find different sources of news, right? Because the initial idea was like, okay, let's have it use Twitter, right? There's just tons of stuff on Twitter, and we can maybe follow some people. And if we think they're scammers, we can like fade, their trades, something like that. But the Twitter API is super expensive to use. And I did see a comment in X before we went live. Are we going to be talking about like longer term news, or are we going to be talking about short term type, very reactionary type trading? And this is more longer term, because if you want a news feed that's super real time, super quick, those APIs are going to be very expensive. And so that's kind of something to keep in mind. If you want something that's going to be very agile and just jump right in the market when it thinks something is going to happen, like you have it monitoring for Trump taco trades sort of thing, you're gonna need to pay money to get access to news APIs that are able to provide those sources very
Mhm.
quickly. And so part of this was like, I want to just use free news sources, right? And I'm looking at longer term trades. So I just saw a question came in. So no scalping potential with the news. In this particular algo, there's not. I would caution any sort of free news source probably wouldn't do any sort of scalping. If you're willing to pay for the Twitter feed, which is $5,000 a month, or there's some other free news APIs, which are probably a lot cheaper, you might be able to do some scalping or shorter term trades with those news APIs, but not these ones. So I kind of show some of the free news sources that it's using here: Crypto Panic, Google News, Reddit API. There's a Fear and Greed index. And a few other news sources. Actually, I have my news fetcher code here if you want to actually look at some code. So we got Yahoo Finance,
Oh,
Bitcoin Magazine, Cointelegraph, CoinDesk, and some of these APIs will provide you free news up to a certain amount of requests per day, for example. So they might not be completely free, but if as long as you're not hammering their APIs, they'll give you free headlines.
you got
And
all the
so
crypto big boys there, so you're well covered, man.
okay, yeah. So I tried to have it, kind of curate a decent sized list of sources of free sources of news, and so this is what it's got right now. So um, what else here? Okay, so this is where AI comes in the picture. So AI kind of helped me to refine the algorithm itself from the initial idea, but where it's helping to make the trading decisions is the algo gets all the headlines from all these news sources and then gives them to AI and says, "Hey, tell me what you think about these. Are these so plus one is like super bullish, minus one is super bearish. If you got like a dozen headlines here, tell me what you think of it." And then it will come back with the score of those headlines and an assessment of kind of what it thinks about it. And I'll show the assessments once the dashboard here is done. And then based on the assessment that comes back, the algo says, okay, I'm going to take this score and I'm going to make a trading decision about it. That's already been predefined. And then I'm going to stick with that decision until the market flips. So once it goes from bullish to bearish, I'm going to go from short to long then at that point, and we'll record the trade, what the price was at the time, and then save that, and we can use that to track our results. So this is one really good example of a way to use AI to augment a trading strategy. So right, you're taking something that would have been very hard to do if you were trying to code a way to score the sentiment, programmatically,
Mm.
and you're using AI to help you do that instead. So this involves API calls it's using Anthropic to send the headlines to, and it's doing 3 calls a day basically. So at the New York Open, the Asia Open, and the Europe Open, it runs the whatever new headlines have come up, and it's costing maybe $1 a day in API credits for this sort of thing. So it's nothing crazy. I definitely have spent way more credits doing other shit that is super expensive, and we'll get into that with Perplexity, which is another tool that I've been playing with. But for most part, $1 for API credits, $1 a day is not too bad for this. And you don't even have to use Anthropic, right? Like you could use something like DeepSeek, which is stupid cheap. It's like a tenth of the price, if that. It might even be cheaper than that.
Wow.
Uh, and if you don't mind using, the Chinese models, then there's no reason you can't, hook this into DeepSeek instead. So, or if you want to get really geeky, you could run your own LLM on your own, Mac Mini or AWS server or something like that. And I've been looking at doing that just because I've been using so much resources on Claude and Codex and Perplexity. I'm debating, just do I get my own hardware and install this my own LLM, which would allow you to run as much as you want and not run into credit issues.
Oh,
So as long as you're willing to pay for the hardware, you
right.
get unlimited credits at that point. So something else to kind of keep in mind. The we got a comment saying the only Chinese model I know is Kanye East.
I'm I just opened the comment. I want to see who wrote that. Oh, okay. I know who wrote that. Okay. Yes.
Oh, that's good. Okay, we got the Claude dashboard is done. So let's jump back to that here. So let me switch back my screen.
As you're doing that, just want to say hi to Dad and Han Solo. Welcome, guys. Oh, wow.
Alrighty. So here we go. So account started with 10K. And the strategy is very simple. If the news is bearish, it goes long, and it goes long just 25% of its account equity. There's no stop loss. There's no other risk management. The only way it's doing risk management is basically by managing the position and using a relatively small position size. So even if the balance went to zero, it would be a 25% loss on the account. Now, if I was trading this in real life with real money, I'm probably going to put in some stop losses, maybe some other sort of risk management stuff. But you can see so far it's doing all right. So it went short initially. Oh, we can see the trades too. So okay, here's this. Every day I find something about AI that just freaking blows me away. Like the stuff you can do with this is just insane. Okay, so every market open, like I said, it produces a signal. So, okay. I told Claude I wanted to be able to click these signals and get the entire because right now it's just showing a preview, right? I wanted to get the
Yeah.
entire signal, and the last time I ran this, it worked, and now it's gone back, and it must not have saved it in its skill that I had saved. So unfortunately, we can't click this and read the full headline, but at the New York Open, well, actually here we can go to the London Open. So this was a little earlier. We flipped from short to long because the news has gotten more bearish. So headlines show multiple references to Bitcoin struggling with resistance levels. So kind of Bitcoin has been rallying, but basically it's kind of hit some resistance and stalled a bit, right? So it's taking this and price targets being revised. So it's saying, okay, it's 70% confident this is bearish. So it flipped from short to long at that point. Wow. It's zooming in on me here. The camera. Oh, probably because I'm doing something with my hands. And then,
Gestures.
yeah, it's the gestures. And then the New York Open, it's dropped to neutral. So it's showing Bitcoin oscillating between 68 and 76K range with mixed signals. So it's staying long right now at the moment. But we can see with the accounts had a pretty good rally since actually the beginning of April. Here it struggled a bit because we went long when things were getting bearish. I don't know how I get this thing to zoom out. Is it the right hand or the left hand? There we go.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's got some AI. The camera even has AI built into it.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So yeah, the really cool thing is you can go back and look at all the signals that the strategy generated over the past for each market open. And this is something I haven't built into the code. Super important for risk management. People don't think about, but what do you do when the API has an error, right? So the algo called the Claude API and the API errored out saying it was overloaded. So we had two market opens where we didn't get any information here. So ideally what you'd want is you want to detect the error and then maybe at some point a little bit later, 5 minutes, 10 minutes or whatever, you try again. If that doesn't work, you try again until you finally get an error back. But as of right now, it just doesn't do anything and just sticks with whatever position it had previously. Now
But
the
did
other,
you,
yeah, go ahead.
sorry, I'm just curious, did you set that fail safe in the sense like when the API fails, it is neutral, or did it understand by itself that if there is no actual signal, by default it is neutral?
Yeah, so the way it's coded right now is if it can't get an update about the signal or the headlines, it just sticks with whatever signal was previously in place. So
Ah,
yeah, so basically it'll say it's neutral. So if it was bearish previously, it's going to stick with the bearish signal. And if it's, bullish, it'll stick with the bullish signal. So that's the way the
got it.
algo was written. Yeah.
Got it.
And then this kind of cool heat map of the algo by day, by market open. So the darker the orange, the more bearish the signal. So you can see there was plenty of market sessions where we were extremely bearish. Black is neutral, and then we finally
Mhm.
have some green days here, and the red sort of outline is where we flipped from short to long. And yeah, so you used to be able to click on these tiles too, and it would bring up the session notes for that session, but not doing that. And then finally, here's our trades so far. So not a ton of trades. Can't really draw any like real conclusions from it yet. But we had a really long-term long trade in place for almost 28 days here, where the news was super bearish. The war had started, prices were falling for a while. I think they got down to like 65K maybe, but then rebounded. And so we were in a pretty good position for that. So
Yeah.
ended up making 5.5% on that trade. Then things kind of flip-flopped a bit. And I was thinking about this because, I mean, in some of these, there was only in a trade for 5 to 7 hours, right? I was thinking, and because if you're using the API to do the trading, you might incur some commissions, right? And slippage. So
Mm.
there's costs associated with placing trades. So I was thinking, oh, you might want to have something built into your strategy to say, I want to see 3 consecutive sessions before I decide to flip from bullish to bearish, right? So you're not flip flopping back and forth if the news has kind of been going either direction,
Mm.
over a time period. And then it flipped to short recently. The thing that I'm not printing in here is actually the dates. So this was pretty recent. This was yesterday. So I ended up with a 1.7% profit, and now news has gotten a bit bearish again, and so we've gone long. So that's the current position that's open so far. So far the contrarian view seems to be the way to go with this strategy if you're looking
Yeah.
at longer term. But like I said, if since I'm a numbers guy as well, this is definitely not a statistically significant sample size to really draw a conclusion. But we'll also do the same thing for oil, and we'll kind of see how it fares as well with this type of news strategy.
It almost feels like oil is going to be a lot more volatile because it's there's a 2 week ceasefire, and I think we are ending the first week already. So by the time you get to do anything with that strategy, I think it might be.
Yeah, and the other thing too, I mean, that's a really good point, is the news is kind of all over the place with oil, right? And the price has also been super volatile, right? We've had +10, -10% days, but 15% day. The moves in oil over the past month and a half have been like the oil market has never seen anything like this. So it'd be very interesting to see how a strategy like this is going to cope with swings that are that wild in the oil markets and with the news that's changing as quickly as that the news is.
So Rob, I
So
want to add one more point about your contrarian view. So like I have friends who are contrarians, but they are like contrarians to a fault. So they would just go, you know what I mean? But in your case, you are not contrarian to a fault. You're contrarian to whatever the direction of the news signal is, right? So
Mhm.
as it flips, your position flips as well. And it almost feels like just from this very, very small sample size of five, well, four trades and five but like positions, right? It feels like you were able to catch moments where like market sentiments flip because you are buying based on the news when it's released. But I guess maybe it's like people's reactions are lagging, right? But then you react
Mhm.
before they react. I don't know if
Mhm.
that it's a factor that comes into play here.
Yeah, I think it is. Sometimes, but the problem is sometimes the crowd is right, especially I feel like if there is a long sustained trend. And that's kind of my fear with this strategy, right? So, like, let's say Bitcoin just kicks off on a massive bull run, right? Because you see, like, gold has had a massive rally over the last 2 years. And part of the narrative with Bitcoin is it's a store of value, right? But it hasn't been acting that way over the last 2 years, not the same way gold has been, and silver
Mm.
also has had a massive rally, right? So if we were to go into like a sustained rally like that with Bitcoin, and then you also start seeing the news headlines turning extremely bullish, I could see a scenario where this strategy just is left in the dust, right? Because it's going to short that, and the news could be
Mm.
positive for a very, very long time before things finally start reversing, right? So at some point, the
Got it.
crowd will be right. And I think it's kind of at the end of the cycle where you see you got to figure out who the dumb money is, and then you fade to those people, right? um,
Yeah. I know. I, I hear exactly what you're saying. That feels like a totally different.
oh, yeah, you're
Says back.
kind of yeah, you're back. You're kind of stuttering a bit. So
Am I back now?
yeah, you're back. Yep.
Okay, good. Sorry, I saw like this little pop up bad connection.
So yeah, what were you saying?
Oh no, just this is probably something that we can talk about in the future as well, because I feel like whatever you just mentioned, it deserves like a deep dive at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Because you can get really into the analysis there, especially with trends and stuff like that. I feel like this is great for reversals, right? Especially if the trend isn't very strong. If we go into a serious bull market or a serious bear market, those headlines are going to be persistent for a while, and we're going to just be fading the shit out of those to a fault. Like that's kind of what you're saying, right? Like I'm going to be shorting this thing the whole way up. It goes to 150K. I'm
Yeah.
shorting all the way, and my account ends up going to zero. Dart had a good comment as well. I mean, you also have gold and silver RWA contracts, and so that could be another market to kind of take a look at.
Yeah, but
Um,
we're saying those may not be the right markets for this particular strategy that you're going
mhm.
for.
Yeah, because I feel like with gold and silver, I mean, oil kind of too, in a way, you're also looking at sort of like geopolitical um, stuff that's going on, not
Hmm.
just having to do with the commodity itself, you know? So that's going to be, I think that's going to be the tricky thing about the oil news trader, right? Because I don't know if we want to just monitor news about oil itself, but we also want to monitor news about what's going on in the Middle East, what's going on in Venezuela, what's going on in the US, like what's going on in Russia, any major oil producing countries, and you know what implications are on the oil markets for what those
Yeah,
countries
yeah,
are
yeah.
doing, so that it's going to be a little more nuanced. But again, this is something that's perfect for AI to figure out, right? Like, give it all the headlines, say how based on what you see here, what is your opinion on the impact of the oil market?
Yeah.
And then get a response back. So, but yeah, so we'll keep running this thing. We'll see how it does. It's
Okay.
gonna look like a
Okay.
genius until the market completely takes off, I think. But
So as of today, we have one news trading bot for BTC markets, and then in the future, you're going to be creating a variant of this strategy for oil, right?
right,
So
yeah.
we are going to have two trading do we call it a trading bot? Yeah, I guess it's a trading bot. We have two trading bots that we need help to name. One is for BTC, one is for oil. So be
And
creative, guys.
both based on the news. So
Both based on the news.
yes.
Yeah. So, I got a perfect segue to the next topic that we're going to cover. So earlier, if you scroll up, you were saying that you have the headlines as summaries, and these are clickable. And it's so, I guess, cute that you mentioned like, oh, you would have preferred a clickable link so that you can read the full article, but people don't usually read anything anyway. So actually, this is perfect. Like people
Right,
only read the headlines, right? So then
right.
like the next thing that we're going to talk about is how you were able to turn like academic research into like trading strategies, because now we recognize that nobody reads shit in the first place. So you built something to take a long form, dense content and turn it
Yes.
into like strategy. So we'll let you like share more, man.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know any other trading geeks out there that like love to look on X and Substack and all sorts of other websites for trading ideas, right? But a lot of these trading and academic papers are super hard to read, and trying to distill what the essence is of those trading papers and what's the actual like trading idea that you could implement in those is super difficult, right? And time consuming. But about this, and a lot of people that do trading, they love doing research and stuff as well. So what I wanted to come up with was a way to um, kind of organize the trading ideas that are out there and have like a central place where I could collect all those and rate them and summarize them. And when I go to back test them, because I like to take, ideas, code them up, get some data, and then back test them. I have a central place for all these ideas. And like, let's say I have an idea and say Paradex now has oil contracts. Say I want to try to find a strategy that has to do with the oil market, right? It's going to be super hard unless you're just really organized, right? So I've been playing with a tool called Perplexity, and it's very similar to OpenClaw in some ways. So OpenClaw is basically an AI agent, right? And it doesn't have many guardrails is the problem, right? So there's been a lot of issues about security flaws in it, people uploading malicious plugins for it. So you got to be super careful with OpenClaw. Now, Perplexity is a commercial kind of version of OpenClaw, but it's got more security enhancements. It runs in its own sandbox. The plugins for it are vetted, and it's just safer. Now, the downside is that it costs money, right? And it's not cheap. I mean, it's $200 a month for the base. And the problem though is they give you a fixed amount of tokens, and you can see whenever you run something, the tokens just start draining and draining and draining, and you can refill it, and then they drain and drain, drain and drain and drain. But the stuff you can do with this is just so freaking cool. So it basically is a way to orchestrate an AI agent to do something on its own on a regular basis. And Claude actually has a version of that now. It's called Cowork, I believe. I haven't tried it yet, but it's kind of on my list of things to try. So what I had Perplexity do is I said, hey, go out a few times a day, because I don't want to like kill my token usage. Go search all these different websites, read the academic papers, summarize them for me, and put it into a Google Sheets. And that way you can categorize it by asset class. You can categorize it by type of strategy. Like, is it a momentum strategy? Is it a mean reversion strategy? Is it a trend following strategy?
Mm.
And what time frame is this strategy good on? Is it something you trade on end of day data? Is it something that's intraday? And also, how difficult? I actually had to summarize a bunch of different things. How difficult is it to trade this strategy? As far as like what sort of data are you going to need to acquire? Is it something that you can use with free data, or are you going to need to buy expensive data for it? And then also, I have like an account at Interactive Brokers as well. And in Interactive Brokers, you like have access to tons and tons of different markets. So both like in the US and Europe and Asia, there's just so many stock and futures markets that are available. Can I apply the strategy to any other markets besides the one that the paper talks about? Because so say in Hong Kong, right, the Hong Kong equities market, you have to pay a stamp tax on trades there, right? So any like day trading strategy is probably going to be tough to implement in the Hong Kong stock market
Mm.
because your costs are super high. But you don't have that in the US and you don't have that in other markets. So potentially, say you could trade this strategy on Japanese equities instead, right? So maybe the paper was written about US equities, but it would work in Japanese equities. So I wanted the algo to say this algo to basically tell me what else I could trade with this.
Wow.
And is it possible to do with a small account size? That was the other thing. It's like I have a $10,000 account. Can the strategy trade a $10,000 account, or does it require a huge amount of capital because the inefficiencies are so small that you're trying to capture? You're not really going to make much money. So I had to put all this stuff into a spreadsheet. It goes out to the internet a few times a day, gathers this info up, throws the ideas into a spreadsheet. And then because I love dashboards, I had to create a dashboard of that spreadsheet that you can search and click through and sort and all this stuff. So I can show that. So first let's jump over to Perplexity. Actually, I think everything is in my other browser window here. So let's jump over to Perplexity. Uh,
This sounds like it's gonna look really, really cool.
it does look
It's
pretty cool. I love dashboards, and it's like
yeah,
every time I make something with the help of AI, I'm just I can't believe we're alive right now in this time. Like the amount of work this would have taken for me to do by hand is insane. It's insane.
yeah.
So,
And this
all
more than
right.
ever, because I was just thinking about processing all the papers in the first place and then
Right.
organizing it.
Yeah. Yeah, just finding them, downloading them, reading them, summarizing them, and then classifying them, right?
It's a final year school project by itself, man.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. All right, let's see. I think I shared my screen. We need to go
There we go.
back
All
to the
right.
view. Okay, so Perplexity. The UI is very, very similar to Claude Desktop. Now they have something called Perplexity Max, which is basically kind of like their version of Claude. So you ask it something, you give it prompts, and it does what it does. And then they have something called Perplexity Computer. And computer is kind of their orchestration, their agent orchestration. So computer is what's going out there and going out to the web periodically and gathering all these things and putting it into the
Mm.
spreadsheet. So that's what I'm using. And then computer has plugins to like tons of different things. So you plug it into your Google Drive. That's where it's storing the documents to and updating the spreadsheet. You can have it help you organize your Gmail. You can have it draft responses for you. It's just insane all the plugins they have available for this thing. So if you
Oh,
haven't checked out Perplexity, you should go play around with it. I'm pretty sure they have a free tier where you can kind of get your feet wet with it. So super, super cool. So let's jump over the dashboard here. So you can tell Perplexity, hey, I want to generate a dashboard. Now it even hosts it for you on their own website. So if you don't want to like have your own web server and an AWS and have to upload your web files and all this stuff, Perplexity hosts it, gives you a personal URL that you can go to and go play with your whatever it is that you created. So this is the strategy R&D. So you can see it's downloaded 194 strategies. It's classifying anything high priority as something that is relatively easy to test. And then back test ready, I'm not sure. I think that might be strategies where there actually is data available. So this is this dashboard that now gives me a way to go and figure out, okay, what do I want to even look at here, right?
yeah.
So let's say I want to look at anything high priority. So high priority in theory means it's easier to test. Oh, and here's another freaking cool thing that I had this do. So I had it say, okay, while you're in the middle of like going out and reading all these papers for me, since you're so smart and you're learning all this stuff, why don't you come up with your own strategies based on what you're reading about, right? So I have it have
Oh,
it researching papers, and then I have it synthesizing its own strategies based on what it's reading, right? And I just started having it do this.
oh
So,
wow.
for
This feels
example,
this is your Frankenstein strategy.
yeah. So, for example, here, this isn't something that's oh, okay. This is actually interesting. Let me make my font a little bigger here. Oh, now we're off the screen,
It's okay.
um,
It's okay. It's gonna get
but
fixed. There we go.
okay. So this is actually an interesting idea. So this is a pair trade between Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? And the typical pair trade uses what's called a Z-score to try to figure out how far the prices have diverged from each other and when they should revert. And when that Z-score gets super big, it says, okay, now it's time to do the pair trade. Now, typically for a pair trade, you're looking at the prices of the assets to calculate that Z-score. But what this strategy says it's going to do, it's going to look at the funding, the difference between the funding rates, not the difference between the prices. So that is something I haven't considered. Now, the other cool thing is I told it, give me the logic. So it takes this entire paper, for example, and it basically distills the trading logic down into like a few paragraphs and equations here. So this is something that I could give to another AI when I'm ready to actually back test this strategy and say, hey, I want to implement this, you know, in a Python script or Java app or whatever. Or maybe even you could do it with TradingView, you know, Pine script or whatever, if you wanted to test it there and say, here's the strategy, here's the equations, go write a script for this. Right. And then the other thing too is it shows you what other strategies are somewhat, you know, related to it. So so here it says difficult a $10,000 account. I don't know why it would be. Because you could probably trade this on any crypto exchange, but maybe on Interactive
Hmm.
Brokers it wouldn't be possible. It shows some variants, some different versions of this. So it's got a crypto options version. It's got a version that can trade on the commodities market. So I don't know how it would be doing it, but it's looking at the equity futures markets. And then it's got one that trades the ETFs. International versions. So here's some versions that here's some different international markets you could trade. And then different time frames. So it's basically saying 1 hour is the optimal time frame to trade this on, and then data requirements, you need funding rate data. So it's gone through and it's done this for pretty much every paper that it's read and basically summarized each of these strategies, the data requirements, where you can trade it, and different instruments that you might be able to trade this strategy on. So like again, I'm just it's like I got somebody working for me full time that all they're doing is reading research papers and summarizing them for me, right?
But a full team.
Full team, yeah. So now the next step of this, which I haven't implemented yet, is I want another Perplexity agent to start going through these and collecting the necessary data in order to back test them, right? Because each one of these strategies is going to require some amount of historical data to run, and that data is going to need to come from different sources depending on what it is we're trying to test. And then finally, there'll be another Perplexity agent that actually goes out and writes the scripts to do the back tests. And that's what you would see at the very end here with the back test results, is some sort of back test here
Mm,
on what it learned about. And ideally what it would do is it would not only back test um, the main asset that this paper was written about, but any potential other variants on it. So yeah, again, just this is how I'd use AI in trading, right? So I'm not having AI do that trading. I'm not hooking my OpenClaw up um, to Polymarket and making 2 grand a day doing whatever it is that they say they're doing there. But I'm having it do some pretty hardcore research work for me that would have been hours and hours and hours on my own. And now I can go through and kind of pick and choose what it is I want to focus my time on here, right? So it's basically just a way to leverage your time and what you're able to accomplish as a single person doing this, right?
You know, when we
So,
eventually put all these videos together, I briefly remember, I think the first time we ever went live, I think you were saying like you don't believe in like charts and like following all these patterns and like I think it
oh yeah,
was you that's
yeah,
yeah.
that's me. That
And
was
I
me.
understand why you say that because now I'm also getting exposed to more, I guess, intelligent ways to review strategies or to create strategies, versus just someone saying like, if this goes up 3 candles in a row, then you buy or you sell, you know, like
Right,
it's
right.
that really feels like astrology now versus this, which is a lot a lot more scientific.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll say that there is a place for that. Like some people are just they've got a skill to read charts, right? They're somehow able to recognize patterns in charts that, maybe a machine isn't able to do, and they just have a better intuition about it. And that's kind of why I say you got to pick a trading style that suits your personality, right? Because so for me, trying to read charts, I can't do it, but there's other traders out there who are really good at like identifying support and resistance levels and price points and
Yeah.
trends just by looking at the charts, right? So I don't want to put anybody down that's a chart reader. That's just not my style and doesn't fit my personality though. I'm just much more of a numbers and statistics geek. And that's the important thing about trading is like you got to find a style that vibes with you, right? Because if you're trying to, if I was trying to trade the chart and I sucked at it and I thought I was good at it, but I just wasn't doing, it wasn't going well, you know, it's going to be tough for me to stick with that and try to refine that if it's not something that suits my personality, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what it comes down to. If you love like looking at charts and you love looking at the bars and the lines and trying to figure out support and resistance and all that stuff, like go all in on that, you know. Uh,
Yeah.
if you're more of a logic and I need a set of rules that I can apply every single time and has no ambiguity at all, because that's what that's what kills me about charts, is I feel like it's very ambiguous as to what I'm looking at, what you're looking at, or whatever somebody's looking at. I look at something that they drew a bunch of lines, and I just see a bunch of lines on a chart, right? And to me, that was just a lot of ambiguity there.
Yeah,
Whereas I personally I need black and white rules to tell me when to get in and when to get out, before I start
exactly.
doing this.
Exactly. Like personally, I always fall into the confirmation bias trap.
Mhm.
Oh, this works. Okay, I'm going, and then I'll keep trying to find ways to prove that it makes sense, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
okay. So I have three questions for you. Two to kind of help people understand like how you came up with this, but I will start with the more complex third question first. So let's say as next steps, you have already back tested, okay? You've identified maybe a strategy you like. Is it possible to get instructions on what needs to be done, or is this meant to be put into code and become like an automated strategy, or both?
Yeah. So it depends on the strategy, right? So if it's something that is more traded on end of day data, meaning maybe it's a trend, long-term trend following strategy, right? That's something you might be able to just trade manually, right? So like,
Mm,
let's say you're just doing a very simple moving average crossover type trade. Like, let's say you tested it and you found some parameters that work really well. You could, put that chart in trading view and just keep an eye on it, check in on it every day, see where the moving averages are, and then just place the trades, yourself. There's not a whole lot there that needs to be done. If it involves anything, like calculating a Z score or on a higher time frame where,
mm,
you might not be sitting at your screen all the time to watch when a signal might occur, then you would need to code that, as an
makes
actual
sense.
algo, right?
Makes
Um,
sense. I think the main difference is if it requires a bit more like computational work, then it
mhm,
needs to be automated. If not, there's no
mhm.
way you can do it in real time.
Yeah, yes, exactly, exactly. And
Gotcha.
yeah, and now you can have AI help you build that for sure. So especially since it's going to write the back testing code, and you
Mm,
can't necessarily take the code you wrote to back test it and just say, oh, okay, I want to trade this now in real life. The back testing engine is going to probably be different than the code that is actually going to execute the strategy itself in real time. Uh, yeah, let's go. We can go ahead and stop sharing the screen at this point. So, um, yeah, so the
a
code
good,
that
yeah.
yeah, the code that does the back testing, I'm probably most likely going to use Python because it's very easy to prototype stuff in Python. But typically for my trading, most of my trading stuff is written in Java. And just because I have an open source library that I've developed over the years, and it connects to a number of different exchanges, and so I can take an algo that I've written and plug a different exchange into it without having to rewrite the algo itself, right? And so it kind of makes it nice to be able to, because then you can plug in different data providers also. So if you want to like monitor price feeds from a number of different exchanges at once, and say your strategy is based on seeing a price discrepancy. When you see a price discrepancy at one of those exchanges, then you place a trade at a different exchange. It makes it a whole lot easier. But
That's a product.
well, it's actually open source. I open source this
Oh, right,
library.
right, right.
Yeah, so it's out there on GitHub. So if you're a Java developer, just look up Fueled by Chai on GitHub, and there's a an SDK out there for connecting to a number of different exchanges.
Damn.
So
Um, man, that's doing God's work, helping everybody out.
yes, I'm
I'm
doing
gonna
God's work.
I'm gonna ask, how did you come up with the idea of like turning research, like academic research into tradable strategies? Because I mean, there's always this connotation like academic research is done by, I mean, researchers and like practitioners. Obviously, there's always that difference. But Did you get inspired by someone, or has it worked for you before?
Um, I got inspired because I have every time I see an article or see a paper that sounds interesting to me, I'll bookmark it, right? And okay, I'll go back and read that later, sort of thing.
Mm.
And then I go look at those bookmarks and I'm like, damn, I've got so many freaking papers that I want to read, and how do I choose which ones that you might have something that's actually tradable in there. So then I stumbled on Perplexity, right? Well, I've been reading a lot about OpenClaw, but I was like, I just don't feel comfortable using that, so I'm not gonna install it. But then Perplexity came out with their product, and I was like, huh, I wonder if I could just have this thing go out and read those papers for me and summarize them. And then I can kind of go pick which ones seem like they have the lowest hanging fruit first to test. And that's the other thing too, is like, writing and back testing script to run through these strategies not trivial. So it's quite if you're
Mm.
doing all this by hand, it's a lot of work to pick a paper and say, okay, I'm going to test this in real life, you know. So yeah, really just the inspiration was just the fact that I've got this huge backlog of stuff I wanted to research. And then Perplexity came along and I'm like, ooh, I got a helper that can help me do this now.
No, that's good insight, because what I was trying to get is how like you even came up with this. But I think the lesson that's learned here is everyone is always trying, exploring, or learning different strategies or different methods. Whatever you are learning, you can take that and use AI to make it more efficient for yourself. You don't have to
Hmm.
make it as complex as what Rob has done, but like whatever you are struggling with, like your main motivation is the fact that there are too many papers that you have in your backlog, and
Hmm.
therefore AI is a solution.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's a matter of asking yourself, huh, I wonder if I could dot, 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 right? I wonder if AI could help me dot, dot, dot. Like,
Oh.
and that's kind of what I spend a lot of time doing now, is just trying things with AI to see if I can get it to do stuff, right? And so I encourage people to do that. Even if you don't have a paid account for some of these, with the free accounts with these AI tools, you can still try stuff out, right? And see what it can do. Just experiment, because you're going to be way ahead of people who are just using AI to say, what temperature should I bake my banana bread at? They're basically using it as like a Google, right? But if you can
Yeah.
actually experiment and try some useful things with it, you're going to be way ahead of people that are, first of all, aren't even using it at all. And second, people are just using it like Google to help them answer these simple type of
Yeah.
questions. So
You just created like the new AI movement. I can see that being a hashtag. Um, no, for real. I mean, that's one way to start exploring,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Um, so my last question around this strategy is, so when it came to like the prompting, because your dashboard is really complex, I mean, it almost feels like you really need to have prior knowledge. But is that true, or were you
yeah.
able to prompt it simply, or did you have to say very specifically, I need all these columns and variables to be
Yeah.
covered?
So it's always better to give it more information than less. So, but also keep in mind it's an iterative process. So it'll come back
Mm,
with something, and then you could say, oh, okay, no, I don't like this. I want it to do this instead. And then, oh, okay, no, I don't like this. Do this instead. Right. And then, at least with Claude, the nice thing is once you get something like dialed in and just the way you want it, you save it as a skill, and then you don't have to give it that prompt again.
mm,
Right.
got it.
So don't worry about, I know you see people on X saying, oh, I just one shot at the Bloomberg terminal, with a single prompt sort of thing. And it's like, okay, that's either bullshit or they gave it such a large prompt. And the other thing too, it's nice, is like you can dictate to the AI, right? So you could turn the voice mode on and just start talking to it. But yeah, I think what you see with those people saying they one shot something. So don't worry about like having to nail the prompt in. You can go back, see what it produces, and then have it modify it, keep making tweaks. So it's basically somebody that's like doing development for you. Say it's just assume, make the assumption you have like kind of a mid-level developer working for you and you're the product owner, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling it what you want it to build, how to refine it, and hopefully it's gonna make something that you end up liking. So
And I guess the main thing to look out for is as you're doing that, like, is it useful to you now? Does it make sense? If it's not, then iterate, iterate, iterate.
right, right. And then I'd say, hey, what am I missing here? Like I'd say, oh, if you're a quant, what 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 would you want to see in this that hasn't been added yet? Right? Because I like asking it about my blind spots. What am I missing here? What else should I be thinking
Right.
about? Right. And it's helped me like actually put stuff into things I'm creating that I wouldn't have otherwise thought of, or maybe I would have got to it eventually when I realized it was missing, but I was able to preemptively either fix something or add something earlier in the process by having it critique, the idea of what it was I was creating.
This is the last question to my last question. How long did it take? How long did it take you to come up with that final version dashboard that you showed us just now? Like, how
So
long did it take for you to be happy with it?
so for the trading strategies,
Yeah,
the interface,
yeah.
that was probably a few hours of work. So it wasn't crazy. Again, if you were building this dashboard by hand, just one developer, this is easily weeks, if not months of
Mm.
going, you know, building it, getting it to look all nice. So the fact that I was able to iterate over a few hours is just, coming from a software developer background, I am just blown away by how quickly you're able to build these things.
Mm. But the reason why I ask it is it's also to set expectations because you are coming from a software developer background that would take you weeks to do this, and then for you,
Yes.
hours seems fast. But
Yeah.
for regular users, AI,
Yeah.
using
Yeah.
AI, you expect immediate.
Yeah, maybe that's true. Maybe
So
maybe I'm just in awe right now because I know what
no,
it
no,
would have
no.
taken.
My point is to everyone that's listening, like to make something good with AI, you still need patience. It's not supposed to
Yes.
be happening like one shot. It's not supposed to be like quick. Even for
Yeah.
someone experienced, it takes hours. So
Yeah.
keep
Yeah. So
iterating.
yeah, I will say the dashboard for the trading, the news trader, that was fairly quick. I probably did that in
Ah,
like in less than an hour of work. And the first version it came up with was actually pretty good. But I'm just a dashboard nerd as well, so I was making a lot of like little tweaks. I was like, "Oh, can you use this font instead of this font, and can you line
right.
it up this way?" And stuff like that.
That's
So yeah, so I might be making more tweaks than like an average person also might be making
got
to
it.
their
Makes sense.
dashboards. So
Makes sense. The perfectionist, man.
yeah,
Um, Rob, this is perfect because initially when we're talking, we had like three topics, and then I remember you were saying that there's one topic that like you're not fully complete yet. So maybe we won't tease it, we won't share it with people. We will
yeah,
reserve
yeah,
it for the
yeah,
next stream.
yeah. We can save that one. Yeah, might be good for
Yeah,
the options introduction anyway for Paradex
yeah.
coming up.
So this time
So
I wouldn't be too loose lipped. So this time I can share like a little bit
oh,
more that
okay,
that No, as in like not too much still, but like options will officially like go like live public. It's already in public beta, but it should get out of beta very very soon, as early as next week. And it's not just one market. Like we are looking at multiple, and we are looking at things that people that you don't really see at all in other platforms at the moment. So expect your commodities, basically whatever we have for RWA perps, that's a
let's go.
priority for options. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, trade anything anywhere, man.
Yeah,
That's our
yeah.
motto.
So, I mean, Paradex, I haven't seen any other dexes that have options on even on Bitcoin, and I don't know if I've seen anybody that's had options on RWAs on the real world assets anywhere. I could be wrong, other than actual like TradFi brokers like Interactive Brokers, I don't know if I've seen a crypto exchange that has options on commodities.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be like a first out there.
So next week is gonna be an exciting one, man.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm looking forward to playing around with some new stuff next week. So
Yeah. Rob, so once again, thank you so much
yeah.
for your time and once again another fun episode. And once again, I have added more to my backlog of things I want to test thanks to you.
In your copious free time, you'll have some more stuff to play with. So
Yeah. I always say tomorrow, but maybe it is tomorrow. We'll see.
yeah, yeah. So
All
all
right.
right, cool. It's good chatting with you and everybody else that's been watching. Hit me up on either YouTube or on X if you have any questions about what
Yeah.
we've been talking about.
Actually, before we go, let's share with people like your YouTube handle and also your GitHub. You were sharing also like you had some you had that open source
Yeah,
SDK.
open source library. So if you do a search for Fueled by Chai on GitHub or on YouTube, that's where I am. And then my X handles right here, FB Chai Trading. Follow me there. DM me if you have any questions about any of this stuff. I'm always down to collaborate and bounce ideas off of each other. So
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Rob. And that's it for this week's episode. We'll
all
see you guys
right.
next week, man.
Good seeing you guys. Later.
Bye bye.